I am light, but the light which is me is not the sensed light of the sensed universe of my creation. I, the Creator, think. I think in two lights extended from the one light of me. Yet those two lights are not me, nor is my thinking me. Verily I say, I give of me and I take away, for I am the imaginer who builds image forms to tear apart, to build anew. I am thinking mine, forever thinking the changing image of my unchanging self. My image changes ever with the changing of the two lights of my thinking, though I myself change not. All things change, and their changing still images me, yet they are not me. That was from the Divine Iliad. Next chapter, knowledge versus thinking. Man's knowledge is his power. His thinking is the expression of that power. The expression of power is not power. Therefore, thinking is not power. As man gradually becomes aware of his omnipotence, his thinking intensifies in voltage in proportion to the increase in awareness of his omnipotence. Thinking is an electric wave extension from the centering fulcrum of knowledge, which seemingly divides knowledge into ideas and sets those ideas in motion to create forms of ideal as product of knowledge. Man's knowledge is like a deep well of still water. His thinking is like a two-way pump, which divides the quality of that stillness into quantities of parts and sets them flowing. That is what the objective universe is, quantities of many seemingly separate forms of ideal, all of which are but parts of the one whole ideal. Each seemingly separate part is a dynamic extension of the one static unity. But separateness only seems, for all are indissolubly bound together in light as one part. Knowledge is the foundation of man's concepts. Thinking transfers concepts into product. The quality of man's product depends upon the degree of awareness of his knowledge, and not upon the quality, quantity, or intensity of his thinking. Water cannot be drawn from an empty well, nor can clear water be drawn from a muddied well. Likewise, good product cannot come from intensive thinking unless knowledge backs that thinking. No ideal of mind can ever become matter. Ideal of product can never become product. Moreover, no expression of anything in nature is the ideal which it expresses. The product of ideal is not the ideal it simulates. Ideal is cosmic and cannot be produced in matter. Ideal must be conceived in the mind before it can be simulated as product. Conceptions belong solely to the magnetic God light and never become matter. A lever, for example, moving upon its fulcrum, expresses the ideal of power by motion. But the idea of power is in the still fulcrum source of power. It is not in the moving lever. The lever would be both powerless and motionless if it did not have the stillness of the fulcrum from which to extend the simulation of power. A watch expresses the ideal of time, but the watch is not time. Likewise, it expresses the ideal of mechanical principles, but the watch is not the ideal which it expresses, which is expressed by those mechanical principles. The printed poem is not the ideal expressed in the poem. That printed poem has no meaning to anyone whose intelligence is insufficient to reflect the ideal from the composer's mind to his own. No ideal of mind ever becomes matter. Likewise, neither the musical composition on the printed page, nor the art of music which issues as sounds from musical instruments, is the inspired ideal of the musician. Inspiration can never be produced. It can be but reflected from one inspired mind to another recognizing one. Ideal and inspiration may be echoed from spirit to spirit, but they can never become product of matter in motion. These are God's words next. Man's sense-seeing with his eyes binds him to the illusion of my dual thinking. For I but build illusion with my dual thinking for his sense-seeing. Sense-seeing binds man to forms and things, while mind-knowing opens doors of glory to the opposed threads of light with which I weave all ideal of mine into forms of many moving things. Mind-seeing decentrates into the farthest reaches of my universe of me, and sees all forms as one. With his seeing eyes, man sees light as matter energized, but senses not that the energy of matter is the light of my divided thinking. With man's unseeing eyes of spirit, he knows the light of me, the source, and knows that he is bound in me as one, and I in him. Behold in me thy God of love, the one, inseparable. That was from the Divine Iliad. Next chapter, thinking versus sensing. Man is still primate, with very few exceptions. He has not yet learned to think powerfully from knowledge. He is just beginning to think as an extension of knowledge. We sense electrically and mistake the electrical sensing of observed effects for thinking. Sensing is not thinking. Sensation is but an electrical awareness of wave motion by other waves. We mistake the electrical records of the information which our brains have recorded as sensation for thinking and for knowledge. Information thus acquired by the senses is not knowledge, however. A man may have vast information and skill, but have very little knowledge. The greatest scientists of today, for example, are well informed. They know how to do wonderful things, but they do not know the why of what they do. Information from observed effects and skills in putting those effects together for useful purposes have multiplied vastly since man first observed natural phenomena. His sense of observation told him how to make a boat, then a sail for the boat. He then discovered the wheel and fire. Electrical awareness of effects of motion, plus memory, plus the power to reason objectively, gave him the ability to do this. Very little of it has been due to either thinking or knowledge. We thus confuse sensing for thinking and knowing when factually we have been but functioning through sensed electrical awareness acquired from information. The information thus conveyed is electrical, not mental. The telegraph message which goes over any wire is not the thought conveyed by that message. Even the typed telegram is not the thought conveyed by it. Its symbols inform the thinker of the thoughts conveyed by it, but it is not the thought. Thus it is that our vast mechanistic, electrically motivated universe is intersynthesized for the purpose of informing every nerve ganglion in every cell of every organic and inorganic part of it of the condition of every other part of it.